Hello ladies and gentlemen, Azagar here, bringing to you another video for Conqueror's Blade published by Porus Interactive. This is a PTR update containing masteries, buffs, and nerfs. So, these might not hit the live as is, but uh, this will be very interesting. There's a lot in, so I'll head straight into it. Obviously, we have the mastery design for the Symmachean stalwarts. We have a little bit of a blurb here. So we have Brace Great Shield unit like Hedgehog. The Symmachean Stalwart's unique Brace ability gives this unit a notable offensive capability among the Great Shield units. However, compared to the Mermiolones, who possess both strong control and high damage abilities, it is somewhat inferior. Therefore, this enhancement strengthens both the Brace ability and its damage in this state, making it more comprehensive. I don't know why they shove in comprehensive here, but mastery plan. Node 1 is increase slashing defense by 100. Node 2, increase slashing defense by 100. Node 3, increase health by 420 points. Node 4 is increase block value recovery by 15 points. Node 5, in brace stance. Brace attack causes stagger and damage increase by 15%. Node 6, reduces damage taken from cavalry by 300 points. Node 7, increased damage to cavalry by 300 points. Node 8, in brace stance after dealing after dealing damage 3 times, the next attack triggers Pious Strike, increasing damage by 30% and causing knockback to enemy units. Overall, disappointing. I do think that Symmachean Stalwarts really need their formations to be reworked, and I do think they need to give a little bit of love to their advance and their free attack mode. Their brace ability obviously is very weak. Just generally their main ability. So I think they do want to strengthen it. Though I wouldn't have taken this route. I do think that with the addition of stagger now, it has literally become a shielded pike militia. Stagger in this case should refer to days. I don't know why they keep changing the terminology here, but it is it will be something it will be interesting to see how much damage is actually being outputted. I do think they roughly sit around the 1100 range, which is extraordinarily low, considering that we are dealing probably in the range of 3-ish thousand damage. For Symmachean Stalwarts with a slightly longer range, you should expect to see them to do around about 2, maybe 2 and a bit. Probably not as low at, probably could go as low as around about 1500. That's about as low as I could probably ball it before Symmachean Stalwarts actually really start get going. But honestly, for me, I think doubling their damage in their current state would be better than whatever they're doing. But regardless of that, we should see roughly a output. We should see a roughly around about a 25% output increase, so they should be sitting at around the 1400 range. Other than that, again, I do think the CC will have to be have to be very very careful how it's applied. If it's in the brace state, we'll probably see it on the ticks. If it's not on the ticks and just on the brace attacks, that is excellent. We don't want stun chains because stun chains are annoying and extraordinarily OP. Knockback, not a very strong one, and obviously keeps in line with a lot of the great shields having the knockback in their kit. Next mastery, we have the Khevtuul cavalry. So they have a lot here, so we're gonna go through it. Ignition spread. The Khevtuul cavalry as melee cavalry have good mobility and turning capability, but their current first skill is weak, and its usage significantly depends on terrain. As archer cavalry, their hit and run capabilities feels unsatisfactory. As melee cavalry, their peculiarities and cost effectiveness are low. Therefore, the skill rework aims to enhance their basic range capability, improve the feel and efficiency of their melee skills with a focus on melee attacks and strengthen their survivability. Personally, I mean, I'm just going to say it right now. I think Khevtuuls are really should have been the hybrid cav where they can shoot with bows, they can go in thing, but focusing on their melee capability is probably excellent. Strengthening their range capability is probably not going to go well with a lot of people, and I do think that how range is normally handled is really poor. But regardless, I do think it will be interesting to see how they take how this actually works. But let's go into some of the actual changes. So we got some balance changes. When within a moderate distance from the enemy, they will attack with a bow. When in close proximity to the enemy, they switch to a sword for the attack. Now, we don't know how this is going to react. We're not sure if it refers to their skill ability or if it's going to be a passive. I really do think this is going to be super interesting if it's passive, but it's going to be kind of weird because they don't have any ammo. So I'm wondering if they're going to apply some kind of ammo restriction on these guys. But it is extraordinarily interesting, but I really do think they need to handle the switching, otherwise make it more faster, make it more dynamic. It's going to be kind of one of the things that limits the hybrid nature of the Khevtuuls. They're not like the Rattan Rangers, which have a like a repeating crossbow pistol on one hand and a sword in the other one. And it's not like the Winged Hussars who have a lance in one hand and a sword in the other. These guys actually have to switch, which is going to be interesting. Again, how everything is handled. But I do think it's probably going to refer to the Firestorm charge. Um, but regardless. Number two, we got some basic attribute changes. So we got piercing defense going from 300 to 370, slashing defense going from 382 to 430, base health from 5,365 to 6,600. We got the health increase per level to from 75 to 105. Max level health is now going to be 7,168, going all the way up to 9,120. Still on the low side, but it is a big unit of 21. Though there are definitely going to be issues with how squishy they are. We're going to see if they're going to be fast. We're going to see if they're going to hit hard. Really important is just the amount of damage output. Their health essentially can be ignored depending on how much damage these guys are going to deal. Mastery Plan, increase slashing armor penetration by 100 points. Node 2, increase skill ignition efficiency on enemies by 25%. Node 3, increase slashing damage by 80 points. Node 4, increase ignition duration by 2 seconds. Node 5 acquires the skill Burning Blade, launching a series of melee attacks on nearby enemies, each attack accumulating a high burning value. Node 6 increases damage to infantry by 300 points. Node 7 reduces damage taken from small shields by 300 points. Node 8, enemies ignited by Khevtuul cause nearby units to accumulate burning value. All melee attacks from Khevtuul cavalry deal increased damage to enemy units ignited by their own skill. Now, there are very few interesting things. We don't know what burning value is. Burning value could either be a direct burn, or it could refer to some kind of internal value that could cause nearby units to spontaneously combust. We don't know, but it will be interesting to see how this works out. It will kind of terrifying if we see one guy goes ignited, all of a sudden the entire unit gets ignited, and whoa, that could be kind of crazy because remember, being ignited means that you get frightened for about 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, I believe. And if this kind of change through, they could be constantly ignited the entire time, which is actually kind of terrifying. So I think playing around with something like this is going to be very scary, and I want to see where they go with this because it's very interesting. But I wouldn't have done something like this. This is very dangerous, and how this could end up, and this could be a kind of perpetual. This could be a perpetual CC, which has. Well, if it is a perpetual CC, you're screwed. There's no way of dealing with it, and if it's not, fine. Otherwise, I do think Node 7 kind of strange. I don't know why they restrict the reduced damage is taken from small shields. I think it should be reduced damage taken from all infantry. It really doesn't matter at this point to restrict the type to only small shields since they've already given them damage against infantry. But again, I don't like these nodes anyway. I really think that these nodes are completely unnecessary and only feeds into the mentality that, well, sorry, it only feeds into my notion that I don't think counters are working. Counter bonuses, bonuses versus counters, but like you need to make good mechanics. You need to make interesting mechanics. Things you can't handle you can't handle interactions by balancing interactions by throwing something on top to make sure an interaction goes one way. It's not going to work like that. You do bonus damage against infantry, you're still going to get screwed over by paladins or any kind of infantry that's not classified in the well, sorry, the small shields. The small shields will probably the small shields that we're talking about will probably still kill this unit, and that's fine. The problem is that you dedicate a node to something that basically it's a redundant node because 300 damage is nothing. These guys are not gonna survive hits that from paladins that are like 3,000 or 2,000 to 3,000. You're not gonna survive against men at arms um, that do 2 to 3,000 as well. Like I've seen hits from men at arms that go to 4,000 like base wise, but it really irks me that the developers still keep up with just trying to force through counters when realistically just keep it generic, make it infantry, make it infantry, make it cavalry, make it cavalry, make it range, make it range. It makes no sense to specify the small shields when it should just be infantry. I don't care the fact that if they're going to kill pike units are definitely going to be killed by this unit anyway, because first of all, they have range capabilities, and second of all, most pike units are just going to get burned to death anyway. Alrighty, we're on to the unit balance buff. We have Orochi Samurai's number 1 Disruptor Adjustment. All attacks that hit enemy disarm them for 1 second instead of 0.5 seconds. This change applies to Onimusha as well. Very bad change. Onimusha should definitely be very careful on how they end up. We don't want them to literally just be swiping through all of our heaviest infantry because they cannot attack back. I definitely think one of the best tests to check is if Onimusha can fully lock a Iron Reaper. That is the best test to always check if Onimusha can lock up the Iron Reapers for like perpetually. I think that's going to be a problem. It was a problem at 0.8. They nerfed it down to 0.5. It's still going to be a problem. I don't know why they would increase this, but we'll have to see. Disrupting Sweep. Block breaking value is increased by 200 points. Great. I definitely love disrupting sweep. Block breaking value in being increased is amazing, but my favorite is the next thing. During the disrupting sweep skill activation, the unit can parry skills and gain an additional 500 block value. Oh my god! This is amazing. I love this. Absolutely love the fact that they're putting disrupting sweep as a counter skill. This is amazing. I love this change. The block breaking value, the gaining extra block value, everything. Bottom line, let's go. And I definitely do think that they're scared of what happened with the paladins. The paladins were basically unbreakable and very inefficient to fight. Even Iron Reapers, who are dedicated counters to shield units, were really struggling to get their value against paladins. And that's probably because people kept switching to sword. If you just leave them in flail, you would just trash paladins. But if you switch to sword, you just get trashed. Regardless, we're going on to the next point. The number of targets hit by the first stage of Disrupting Sweep is increased to 3, and the second stage targets are more dispersed. Interesting. So I believe the second hit hits like 8, So it's going to be a 3-8 kind of thing. I'm not sure what they mean by the second stage targets are more dispersed. It's um, it's a little bit weird how they described it. Increase the damage of double strike and disrupting sweep by 10%. 10% is basically nothing. These things don't deal very much damage. They're in the low 2000s. I think after all of the buff, you can get. I think you can get double strike up to about 4000. You can get disarm. You can get disrupting sweep up to probably around about 3000. They're nominally just not very good. So um, a 10% increase is basically nothing. But there could be a knock-on effect. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Swine Feathers triple shooting base cooldown is reduced from 50 seconds to 40 seconds, and base duration is increased from 12 seconds to 16 seconds. Um, yeah, that's fine. Damage is increased by 30% from 10 seconds after triple shooting ends. I think I think they only doing that because they don't want to bake too much into triple shooting, but increasing the damage after triple shooting is pretty good. But man, I wanna say that just like it's really it's really terrifying that like they're going to buff the swine feathers in this manner. Um, they shoot pretty fast. They deal a lot of damage. They deal a lot of damage per shot. But their damage output is quite low. So swine feathers are going to be quite terrifying to kind of like just get hit by. But it's going to be the weird scenario where the triple shooting is actually still the bulk of their damage, but people are just going to get sniped out. So they're going to hate the 10% after triple shooting ends. But this should give us a good projection on how much damage they should relatively be doing. So you got a good 26-ish seconds for good damage, because remember that triple shooting plus the doctrine, you're doing more damage than oh sorry, you're doing equal damage as pre-mastery Imperial Arquebusiers, and 30% increase after triple shooting means that your subpar damage output is now up to par. I think it's going to be on the low end. In like, it's definitely going to be on the low end, but it should almost match Krieg's Fusiliers if Krieg's Fusiliers just hit every shot. That being said, base ammo increased from 600 to 700. We also got Seregs. The duration of the second and third charge of Shield Rush extended from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Again, I think they should really figure out a way to have the charges just be consecutive instead of just having charge be kind of limited within the duration. I really wish it was just like I really wish that like they had like a charge buff kind of thing where every single time they use uh shield shield rush that they get two buffs where they can charge another time, but it's only on their next attack, so it doesn't need to be dependent on like duration, or maybe the buff duration is very long, that kind of thing. I kind of what I want to say is that like you can bait out the Sereg charge. That sometimes I do this. Sometimes I kind of pull out and move the Seregs because they're very fast. I say they're very fast. They're 5.5 or something. I think you can get them to almost 6, but just generally Sereg's just not very good in because they're not very tanky. They're really easy to disrupt, and generally generally the damage is good, but they only hit one target, so you really need that plus one. So stamina 5 is very important. Charge attack damage increases by 6% incrementally. We're not sure what this incrementally thing means, but if it means that the first charge increases the second charge by 6%, and the second charge is then increased, but sorry, and then the second charge increases the next subsequent one by another 6%, so it's 12% on the final shield charge. A good amount of damage. It's only around about 9% increase overall, but it's only around about 6% damage increase overall. We're talking about a charge damage doing in the 3.5 to about 4,000, and this is base wise. I think it's around about that much, and that's a really good amount of damage. So, but you only hit one target, so that's a big problem. Continuing on, we also have Crescent Monks also getting buffed. We have the base leadership reduced from 250 to 222. Base health increase from 13,524 to 15,633. Base slashing damage increase from 1,593 to 1,870. That's a big increase. Block breaking value of Crescent Monks each segment increased by 150 points. I don't understand each segment. It's like like each attack? Like it's very interesting. It's just very interesting. If I'm not wrong as well, I think Crescent Moon is not unblockable, but the leap attack is blockable. Crescent Moon is not very good, by the way. It's very slow. It barely hits anything. It hits three, hits three. It like Deadly Epicycle is just way stronger. So, Crescent Moon's just not even like. Why would you even use it? During Deadly Epicycle, the slash damage coefficient of Crescent Moon is increased from 0.62 to 0.92. So this is an increase of 0.3. Oh man, because it changes things. So like it's like a 50% increase to the slashing damage component, whether or not it includes the blunt component. Ugh. All we can tell is that it's probably going to be an increase of about 600 damage comparatively. Though I do. Okay, no. If we're going to work, because I'm going to have to work with pre-slashing damage values, then go to the slashing damage thing. So what you could expect is that what can you expect is that if it was pre-slashing damage values, because we have got slashing damage increases here, it would be probably around about 500, 520, no, about 500. After the slashing damage increase is going to be about a difference of about 600. So if I remember correctly, these things deal around about almost 3,000 damage. We're going to be seeing 3,500 damage. So don't take my word for this. Again, I haven't used Crescent Monks in a while, and I'm pretty sure they're dealing in the ballpark of Deadly Epicycles doing probably mid 1.5, almost 2,000 damage per tick. Then we have Crescent Moon hitting for almost 2.5. So we're definitely going to get into the probably 3.5 range with the Leap Slam, but again, don't quote me on that. Increase the number of targets of Deadly Epicycle and subsequent Crescent Moon by 1. I don't like that it's subsequent Crescent Moon by 1. Crescent Moon definitely needs a big up, but Deadly Epicycle going from 6 to 7, not a terribly big increase, but it's still going to be scary because it also increases their block breaking capability, and that is more terrifying than the 150 point increase for the Crescent Moon. That's only about a 450 point increase, which again, they're going to take out one extra block. Deadly Epicycles, their attack rate is very fast, so I'm much more terrified on Deadly Epicycle's block breaking capabilities than Crescent Moon's block breaking capabilities, especially since Crescent Moon's not particularly great damage either. But The leap slam is going to be very interesting as well because it was already really struggling to hit the entire unit. Now it is 9 multiplied by 4, so you should be able to get a good you should be able to hit everyone now more reliably. I was kind of there's lots of overlap as well. So with extra damage, extra +1, the deadly epicycle into Crescent Moon should be the go-to for big damage. Otherwise, deadly epicycle letting it just spiral through and just end with the Crescent Moon should also be very good now. Um, but I don't like Crescent Monks in the first place, so sorry if I like to kind of like say this, but the design of Crescent Monk just don't work well for me because um, it is a small unit that just tries to make superheroes. Also talking about superheroes, we have Camel Lancers, and you've probably already taken a look at these numbers and just going, wowzers! But anyway, base health increase from 15,142 to 18,525. Health increase per level raised from 196 to 240. Now, I did calculate this with a calculator, and we're going to be seeing a base health of like 24,000. Holy! You are reaching hero level health, by the way. When we include a couple of the health nodes, we're probably going to be sitting in around about like 25, maybe 26,000. Sorry, you're going to sit in the 26 to 28,000 range. If I remember correctly, that you can get around about 9 or 12% increase in health. So that's going to happen. During barricade, enemy cavalry entering approximately 7 meters of the Camel Lancers will trigger its anti-cavalry deterrent effect, causing horse panic. Now, this will be interesting, whether or not, if this is a one-time thing, whether or not it's a multiple-time thing. Like, it's kind of interesting. I want to know exactly how often this triggers. Is this a one-time thing? Is this like on cooldown or duration? Like, what are we talking about? I know that like within 7 meters, they're just going to be like boom. All of a sudden they panic. Oh no, they smell. The interesting thing here is if it's a complete stun lock. If it's not, if it's a one-time thing, I think it's going to be fine. I think it's just going to be like, oh, okay, cavalry just it's like a guaranteed cavalry hard stop. Like cavalry cannot even be around camels, so you always would want the widest formation for camels and just block off an area. You don't want to just tank cavalry. You want to just be there so that cavalry stops on you, and that's all. That's all you would want. And also, it's in barricade, so you're stationary anyway. You're slow as hell. But um, logistics for that is very interesting. So I'm wondering how that is handled on the back end. What kind of limitations it has, what kind of applications it's going to have. The application in my mind is already going to be like, oh, this is a really good area denial because not only are you guaranteed to CC the enemy cavalry, like um, oh no, that's not true either. If cavalry enter the zone, if the cavalry enter the zone and they're CC immune, do they still cause horse panic or do they ignore it? So if you enter, oh man, you could still finagle this with something like Yan Yudao's or you could still finagle this with like Yan Yudao's or Zanzuya Heavy Cavalry, where their CC immunity could literally just be like, yeah, nah, we don't care. Probably Yan Yudao's will be much harder. I think the Zhuangzi Heavy Cavalry will be much easier, but still. Optimized charge movement logic. During non-attack actions, the unit will maintain a charging and spear holding stance, slightly increasing damage frequency. basically what it means is just going to stay in the charging state, and that means collision damage is still going to happen. Interestingly enough, Camel Lancers only have one instance of collision damage and one instance of attack. So it's really funny because they either hit 5 people for low damage or 1 person for 10,000. And I find it hilarious because it's I just find it hilarious because it's really cool how you have how you can see the 2 attacks and they don't overlap, but it's it's really stupid that they don't overlap and that you don't have a constant collision rate. But regardless, I think this change will definitely increase the damage output, at least doubling it. In my mind, I think it's going to be doubled, but we'll see in practice. Added a oh, talking about double, these guys would probably be as strong, if not stronger, than Sparkies because these guys are virtually CC immune. Well, no, Sparkies are death. Basically, Sparkies and Camels are basically the same. Basically have like same gimmick of like recovering almost instantly when trying to do an attack. So there's that. Add a special trait, Reservoir Cycle. Due to the unique physiology structure of camels, this unit can slowly recover health, restoring 1% of their maximum health for 2 seconds. Now, the same thing is on armigers, otherwise Tundra humans. I like calling them Tundra humans because that's the original name I learned them of. But the it is interesting because armigers actually have 0.25. You need to go bottom line in order to get it increased by double to 0.5, or maybe I'm misremembering it, but basically the exact same. So 1% maximum health every 2 seconds, base health of like 24. Let's just say 24,000. 1% is 240 every 2 seconds, so 120 per second. It's not a lot really. So that is basically nothing. You deal more, like, we deal so much more damage than whatever the camels can sustain. Not to mention they don't have a block. They have damage resistance, but that's about it. Yeah. So, for the camel lancers, I think it's going to be very interesting kind of changes being dedicated anti-cav, but not going to really work out. Because most of the time you're just going to get beaten up by infantry. So I want to see. Oh, actually, no, take that back. The charge, the charge could be the change. So we're gonna have to see. I kind of like the idea if camel lancers are both good against infantry and good against cavalry, um, they will again kind of sit in that like small units, big effect kind of thing. So Crescent Monks, Camel Lancers, and Berserkers are all going to sit in a very dangerous zone. But like Camel Lancers are easier to kind of like uh, give concessions to, mainly because it is a cavalry type unit. So not only is it bigger, they also have a bunch of mechanics that kind of screws them over. But regardless, um, I think the Camel Lancer changes is sorely needed, and nothing seems problematic. Well, sorry, nothing seems problematic. I do think that the barricade thing is going to be problematic how it's handled. I don't, as much as I hate cavalry, I don't like how cavalry kind of just gets crapped on like this. As well as 1% is basically nothing. No one is dealing less than 120 damage every second. So camels are definitely not going to just like live perpetually against some of the nominal stuff. So you don't have to worry about like sustain here. Well, combat combat doctrine could cause issues, but yeah. Now we're on to unit nerfs. Now, some of these things I am kind of against, and some of these things kind of warranted. So obviously, companion cavalry's base leadership increase from 215 to 230, definitely warranted. I would have pushed it to 240. If not, I would have decreased their unit size to 21. Well, sorry. No, 21 is actually a bit low. 24 should sit in. No, take that back. 21 should be the good zone where the units, like, I say 21 here only because it matches a lot of the melee cavalry. Their leadership and their value is still very cost effective, even if I dropped it down to 21. But leadership increase now being increased by 100, by 15 points again. Like, this is virtually like a 5% this is a 5% increase, basically nothing. More like 7, but companion cavalry is not even enough. Well, sorry. It is a nerf. It's not enough. Companion cavalry is still going to be very efficient. It's still very big, very good at its job, and can easily outmuscle even tier 5s just because of their sheer size and the damage they output. They are actually, like, this is the weird thing. Because of their size, they're really good against lots. Well, sorry, because of their size, their output of damage is really high. But because of their but when you look at them individually, their individual damage is really high. So you get this really weird scenario where they're really, really, really good against low numbers, really strong units, but because of their size, they're really efficient against equal sized units and probably slightly larger. When I say slightly larger, they do have a hit limit of 2, or I believe it's supposed to be 2, not including their collision damage. But basically, since they can hit 2 with their spear, um, they should cap out at probably taking on around about 54 units at the same time before they start to struggle. And yeah, that's how it works out. So for me, I would have pushed companion cavalries down to 21, push it up to 240, see how we end up. See how we end up in the end. I do think people are going to cry. I do think people are going to overestimate the effect on companion cavalries, but I think what's going to be underestimated is the changes of warbands. Whether or not that actually happens, I'm not sure. I don't use companion cavalries in a lot of my warbands, and I don't try to make my warbands as efficient as possible. So, if this does do a shakeup, fine. It's basically nothing. Um, sorry, this is basically not a strong enough nerf to shift companion cavalries out of the meta. They're still going to be a very good filler pick, and again, if you're going to fill in with any cavalry, companion cavalries or the Iron Cap scouts are the best ones. Period. Don't even think about the heavy preacher cavalry. They're a gimmick, and although they can be very difficult to deal with in tough situations, they are not strong enough. Especially since you can bring Iron Cap scouts, and they're way cheaper and way better. They're consistently better. That's what I'm trying to say. The second part is the slowdown effect of the mounted spear blade will no longer affect heroes. Ah, yes, I hated that. Getting hit by that was atrocious. The slow forever. I wanted to just kill myself just to get rid of the slow sometimes. Vassal Longbowman, Mastery Node, Steel Spike Arrow, increase in fire rate reduced from 30% to 25%. Um, I cannot even calculate what exactly this is going to drop. This is not even like it says 5%, but the actual effect is going to be like going to be like less than oh wait, no. This is going to be something like less than 3.75% change in DPS, but I don't think like I don't actually think the longbow DPS was the problem. It was their range, their prevalence, and again, just like people just love using them. So this is definitely not going to change very much. Um, I totally understand why they would do this because even though their DPS is actually not very strong, um, their prevalence and their uptime makes them almost oppressive because of just the sheer distance for damage. Like There are a lot of positions where the longbows can just keep shooting you for just forever, and it just be like, wow, this is annoying. And it's not a small amount of damage. It is still significant. And for the range, because of the range, they're almost untouchable. Um, so you get that issue, and I do think that range in itself is an issue, but they'll never fix it in the way I want them to fix it. That is to increase the range drop off. So range will never be as strong as they should be, and range will always be annoying more than they should be. Mastery Nose, Wall of Agincourt. Maximum damage increase effect on hitting the same target consecutively reduced from 40% to 30%, with the doubles effect on cavalry similarly reduced. Um, in its entirety, I'm not sure how bad it was. Wow, what the hell did just happen? Like, I hit my knuckle in a really weird way. Hmm. Anyway, I hope that's not a problem. Could be cancer. Nah, jokes. Or it could be. Anyway, so I do think the damage increase is also not an issue. Their relative DPS is fairly okay. They're really good at dealing with cavalry. That's where you get a bit terrified because the damage to cavalry is actually quite high, and because they're also the slow effect is also double against cavalry. Um, so you got so vassal longbowmen are actually very good at dealing with cavalry, though. Cavalry do move more erratically, and the projectiles are not very fast, so you don't get a position. So you're not in a position where it's just like vassal longbowmen can just like track down cavalry. Though I do wish there was a little bit more give for a little bit tracking against larger targets. Smaller targets, I think there should be a little bit less accuracy. Symmachean paladins. I think everyone's kind of in the zone of just being like, yeah, these guys need a nerf, and I definitely do think that people have turned against them. I definitely do loved using the paladins during this time, and I have loved them because they were strong. But it is also because that I did say that they were going to be strong before they come out that it was bad. And the changes that they're going for are a little bit much. So, normal attack damage decreased by 15%. So, we're going to be losing probably around about their normal attack damage, if we're going around about 3.5, they're going to lose about 500 damage. So they're going to go back down to probably slightly higher than 3,000. Their shield account counter interval in shielded state increased by 0.5 seconds. The number of targets decreased from 4.3, and the attack range reduced from 7 meters to 3 meters. Now, it's very rare that we get any attack range like indicators. The fact that the shield bash was 7 meters indicates that some hitboxes are huge. The shield bash being 7 meters is also enormous and shouldn't have been like that. So we're losing about 25% of their damage. The cap on the interval really could be a killer, depending on what we're talking about. I'm thinking what ended up happening was that if, like, just thinking like the thought experiment like this, if the previous interval was 0.5, now the interval is 1 second. Do mind that roughly around about 1.5, maybe 2 seconds is how fast units normally attack. How I think how fast units attack. So, um, this could be a decrease. So like we could when the total damage output of this could be realistically extraordinarily high, but we have no idea how to uh, extrapolate this information without previous data. So the counter attack is going to be nerfed. This could essentially be a very big nerf, extraordinary nerf, and I'm all for it. I'm actually all for it. One of the big problems with the shield attack counters is it's essentially was better than their normal attack. Their normal attack still needed to come through, and it did come sometimes, but it was just not what made them really annoying. Fighting them was really annoying because they would always shield bash you at a faster rate than their attack speed, and now we know that is from a longer distance. 7 meters is probably equal to probably the length of a pike, which they probably did that in order to counter back in the day pikes. Pikes were very useful. Pikes were like the main counter. You would have halberdier formation, and your paladins would try to piecemeal in and just get killed. So there's that. Now, what I really hate is this next one. Shield counter attacks in shielded state will not cause stagger to the target. That is completely and utterly targeted at heroes. Why? The mastery upgrades the stagger to a knockdown. That knockdown doesn't affect heroes. The shield bash the shield bash has an innate daze which affects both heroes and units. I think that should stay. That should stay. And people will disagree with me on this, but I think units should be able to defend themselves. Units not being able to defend themselves is, again, really a big problem. Self-healing of battle prayer reduced from 350 points every 0.5 seconds for 6 seconds to 350 points every second for 6 seconds. Now, that's a massive decrease of 50%. Um, realistically, realistically, um, you could get rid of the heal, and they would be an amazing standard unit. The heal in and of itself just makes them overperform, and I think if you got rid of the heal, Symmachean Paladins would be in the best spot just by itself to be meta, to be meta, to be contestable, and be fair. That is how I feel about the Symmachean Paladin. But it's because of the heal that like Symmachean Paladins is completely unfair. They'll just steamroll through one person really fast, heal up, or you try to kill them, they'll heal while you're dealing damage, and you just can't kill them. So having the heal, good. I think it's I think the healing rate was pretty high, but it's nowhere near the rate of Men at Arms or some of the other. So this is about a 20% heal. This is about a 20% heal every 35 or 25 seconds. So this is like a 1% heal per second. And math, people, math. 20% divided by 25 is not 1%. Um, it's actually um, it's actually about 0.8% per second. So I I really don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. The heal itself was just like unnecessary because of how strong some Symmachean Paladins were. The nerf and damage output is going to be much lower. Like if we kind of normalize, I mean, we don't know how strong the attack in full really is. This could literally kill the unit in terms of damage, but I do know that um I do know that the healing was probably the reason why they just have such a consistent and good performance. It's still going to be tough. I don't like the 20%. I don't like the 20% damage reduction, and I don't like the bleed. Those two things should need to be rid of. I think those. I don't think those are good. The healing portion, fine. I think it's fine. For what it's worth, now it's going to be even less problematic compared to some of the other ones. But yeah, I kind of like fluctuating between these two things. Like it's so low now that it's just like it's basically nothing, and I'm not going to be like it used to be high enough where you could battle, heal, battle again, heal again, battle again, heal again. Like you never get to that point where it's just like you're wore down, and that's kind of like how you would think a sustained tank would be. Like you fight, you win, you heal up, you fight again. Rapid succession battles. Now, paladins are not going to be able to just take a fight, heal, take a fight, heal. You're going to be take a fight, heal, heal, take a fight, heal, heal, take a fight, heal, heal. You've got that 1 minute. You got like that 1 minute to probably about a minute and a half downtime between taking hard fights. The nerfs coming in is good though. I think deserved, and I'm not sure how everything else is going to work out, but Symmachean Paladins should not be killed. I definitely do think we're going to have to see how weak these guys are going to be. I'm afraid to say Wu Wei will probably beat them now consistently. It was around about 6-4. Wu Wei favored about 6. Symmachean Paladins about 4. Now it's probably going to be sitting around about 100%. Wu Wei wins. Do mind people keep saying that Wu Wei are not very strong. Again, it is true that Wu Wei there is a lot of weaknesses in them, but once they start blendering, it's just like, yeah, what you gonna do? You just need to hit it with something stronger. Symmachean Paladins were tough enough and strong enough to challenge Wu Wei. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. So take that as you will. Other than that, that is all of the balance changes. I know I've spoken for an hour and just a lot to go through and a lot of my opinions to also just kind of push through. I didn't want to kind of like break this into like I tell you everything and then do a discussion because I just kind of like go back and re-describe it. But do tell me what you think. This is a lot, and I definitely do love that they're pushing for this. I just think that the direction is kind of scary. Symmachean Paladins, I mean, the Symmachean Stalwarts a bit scary, only because just like, sorry, Symmachean Stalwarts are not scary. It's just that I don't like the direction they're going with. Um, the stagger on brace, depending on how that is applied, could be really wanky. And the Khevtuul's entire mechanic just could be terrifying, but whether or not it is a self-perpetualizing burn is again just going to be very interesting how it works out in the end. But if I do get an update, well, sorry, if I do happen to get a friend to help me out with a couple of the tests, I will be sure to put it in a linked video in the description. But if you don't see it, I probably haven't made it yet. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. But other than that, my name is Ezekai. Have a nice day. Bye for now.